Okay, so today we're talking all about branding. Now here at Bullet Goodly, as a part of our research audit strategy phase, which is our consultative approach that we use when we're engaging a new client, we do something called a brand audit. What I'm going to talk to you about today is what is entailed during that brand audit and how it can help you or your business or ultimately your brand do incredibly great things out there and get some traction out in your digital space. Before I start work with any client, what I like to do is really get a sense and a good understanding of what their brand is, what their target demographic looks like, the current customers that they have right now, what's working, what's not working, and do simple things like, just look at their social media profiles, check out their website, make sure that all the image, all the design work, all of the mission statements, everything is consistent with each other. So what I'm going to bring you through now is the checklist that I actually take our clients on a one-on-one basis to make sure that their branding is consistent across all of those channels. About two iconic brands being Apple and Nike, and I'm using those two brands as examples because you've probably heard of them before. If you haven't, you literally live under a rock and you need to check your whole life. But another story for another day. So what I want to show you is a couple different things as I take our clients through this branding audit, this section of the research audit phase with Bullet Goodly. There's a lot of things that I'm looking for, and I'm going to go down that, and I'm going to use Apple and Nike to compare and contrast how I would look at a client's website and their social media to look for brand consistency. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to boil everything down to a keyword or maybe a handful of keywords. But if it could be one keyword, that's fantastic, because then I can begin to build out on top of that keyword and also look for negative keywords. So for example, Apple might be iPhone, right? It might be Mac, it might be Macintosh, it used to be iPod, right? These are keywords that have become iconic products or flagship products for the brand that you could build a whole entire list of keywords and then also negative keywords. So as you stem out and you get one layer or two layers out, then of course, it wouldn't just be iPhone, it would be mobile phone, right? Or it would be cell phone. For Nike, same thing would be like Air Jordans. It could be Nike could be the keyword, but again, that's a brand name. So if no one knows anything about your brand, never heard of you, then you might need to use something like tennis shoe or sports equipment, right? Something to that nature. If you have an established brand like what Nike did here, you can see on their website, Air Jordan, which used to be a flagship product of theirs, is now a whole sub-brand, or it's a subcategory of Nike as an entire company. I mean, they not only have a tab on the website, but they have a whole section of the company dedicated to Air Jordan because it's such an iconic piece of the Nike brand. So that it makes a great segue into what we're talking about, which is the first thing that I go into after boiling down and getting a couple main keywords is voice and style. Describing the brand's voice, reviewing sample headlines. Of course, for Nike, it's just do it. If you don't have a sample headline, then you want to think about making some kind of a headline or trying a couple different samples that, explain your brand in one place. Jumping over to Apple, it's say hello to the future. So that voice and style and that copy that's being written and what you're seeing on the website begins to create an environment, an experience, right? I should say experience more than an environment, because the next part has to do with environment, but it creates an experience. And the experience that Apple wants you to feel is that it's new, it's trend setting, that they're a part of the future, they're making products that come to the future. So that's a little bit about voice and style. Moving into visual identity, and I like using Apple as an example because, regardless of whether you're a PC user or you're a Mac user, we have a fun little rivalry here with that at Bullet Goodly. One thing that I think everybody can agree on is that Apple does an incredible job of being visually stimulating. Not only just the website, but right down to their product box design. They put a very heavy weight on creating products that are graphically and aesthetically pleasing, right down from opening up, every single box of every single product that they make. They assign and attribute great detail to doing that, and that becomes a part of their visual identity as a company. Okay, so let's talk about branding and positioning your brand. So what I want to cover here, and these are the questions that you want to ask or that you want to ask yourself, is who are you? What do you represent? What's your market look like? What's your product or service? What's your unique selling proposition? What differentiates you in the marketplace? What's your brand essence? What does your customer look like? And then describe your corporate culture and how that actually fits your brand. And so a process that a mentor of mine took me through when I was really young in marketing and I own an apparel company was, he said, Steve, in order to understand, how to make products, in this case clothes, that you want to sell to other people, you need to really understand your customers. So where do they hang out? What places do they shop at? What kind of a car do they drive? What music do they listen to? If it's a man, what kind of women do they date? If it's a woman, what kind of men do they date? And once I could understand that, then I could begin to reverse engineer and build products and or services or a marketing campaign that would already be what these people were looking for. So, going back to Apple and using them as an example, people don't go buy an Apple MacBook Pro because it's the cheapest laptop. You could pretty much get the same internal components and a PC version of that for about half the price. So why do they buy an Apple, and how does Apple position themselves in the market? Apple's selling an experience. When you go buy a MacBook Pro, you show up at the Mac store and there's a couple blue shirts in there and they show you how the product works and all the cool things that it does. And all the software that's built into the ecosystem is made to be not only aesthetically pleasing, but give you an incredible user experience. So they can justify charging, in some cases, double the price for it, because that's how they position themselves in the market. You're not buying based on price when you buy a MacBook Pro. You're buying based on value and the experience that you get. So when we're talking about positioning, it's very important to identify not only the unique selling proposition that your product or service has, but how you're going to position yourself in the marketplace. Is it going to be based on price? Is it going to be based on value? And so once you understand those things, then you can put it in the marketplace position correctly so that the customers can find it and you can ultimately find the customers that you want. All right, now that makes a good segue into internal versus external. When it comes to branding. So when I say the word internal, or I'm talking about the internal brand, what I'm talking about is all of the people that work for your company, all the potential people that you would recruit to work for you, everybody that's a part of the organization who basically is in a customer or some kind of a client. Now, creating an internal brand is important because this is going to be the way that your company is going to be able to attract incredible talent. Again, referencing back to Apple and Nike, think of it like this. If I worked for Nike or I worked for Apple, let's just say Nike, and I'm wearing Reeboks, or those are my go-to shoe that I like to actually go to the gym in, then there's a serious problem, right? There's a serious internal problem with the company's brand and the people that they're working with. So, in the last tech startup that I worked at before we officially started Bulkily, I worked right next to GoPro. Everybody that worked at GoPro was always rocking GoPro shirts. They were always about the brand. They were submitting their own user videos using all the different company products, because what GoPro did was they built an incredible environment internally, branding their own products throughout their own organization, so that they created a fiercely loyal organization when it comes to research and development and sales. Again, same guy that works at like the Toyota dealership. If he's driving a BMW but he's selling Toyotas, there's a problem. So these are the things that we want to clean up when we're doing internal brand audits. Moving into the external side, that has to do with corporate identity, logos, brand elements, websites, the content that you guys are putting out as a company, and anything that's going to be public facing that your potential clients or customers would see. So we're looking at things like, what does the customer service feel like? What's the feel, right? Is it responsive? Do people generally like you? Are they saying good things about you on social media? What is the brand's reputation? What is the public relations policy? How do they deal with negative news events that are coming out? What kind of videos, client testimonials are out there that can be viewed online? These are the things that we're looking at when we're doing an external brand audit, and they're very important. They could be as simple as a Yelp review, and they could be as complex as an internal customer service support system, right? And how you guys are dealing with returns.